That morning started like any other, until I was summoned to the glass conference room where three stone-faced executives waited. In 5 minutes, they erased 8 years of my life with a single cold sentence. I walked out of that building with nothing but my old laptop and a burning resolve. They would pay for this. Nobody could have imagined that exactly 1 year later, I'd be the one snatching their $60 million contract right from under their noses. My name is Laura Mitchell, and until that Tuesday morning in March, I believed loyalty meant something in corporate America. For 8 years, I'd poured my soul into Westwood Dynamics, one of Dallas's most prestigious tech firms. At 34, I was their youngest senior marketing strategist, a title I'd earned through countless 14-hour days and sacrificed weekends. The summons came at 9:47 a.m. My assistant barely looked up as she delivered the message. "They want you in Conference Room C. Now." Conference Room C was what we called the fishbowl. All glass walls, no privacy. Everyone could watch your triumph or your execution. As I approached, I saw them through the transparent walls. HR Director Patricia Stern, my direct supervisor James Morrison, and CEO Robert Westwood himself. Their faces were masks of corporate indifference. The walk from my corner office to that room felt endless. My heels clicked against the polished marble floor, each step echoing in the sudden silence that had fallen over the open workspace. Colleagues averted their eyes. They knew. Somehow, they always know. "Laura, please sit." Patricia's voice was professionally neutral, the kind of tone they teach in HR seminars about difficult conversations. A manila folder lay closed in front of her, my name typed neatly on the tab. "We're restructuring the marketing department," James began, not meeting my eyes. The same James who, just last week, had praised my campaign strategy for the Morrison Industries acquisition. "Your position has been eliminated, effective immediately." The words hung in the sterile air. Behind them, through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Dallas sprawled under the harsh Texas sun, indifferent to my world collapsing. "I don't understand," I managed, though my throat felt like sandpaper. "The quarterly review is next week. My campaigns increased ROI by 37% this quarter alone." "The decision has been made," Robert Westwood interrupted, his gray eyes as cold as his family name suggested. This was the man who'd personally recruited me from a competitor, who'd promised me a future here. "Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. Your access has been revoked." 8 years. 8 years of arriving first, leaving last. 8 years of fixing other people's mistakes, of making miracles happen with impossible deadlines. 8 years reduced to a 15-minute supervised walk to clear out my desk. The security guard, Marcus, whom I'd chatted with every morning about his daughter's college applications, couldn't look at me as he stood by while I packed. My hands shook as I placed my personal items into the cardboard box they'd provided, a cliché so perfect it felt scripted. The family photo from my desk, the lucky pen I'd used to sign my first major client, the coffee mug that read, "World's Okayest Boss," a Secret Santa gift from my team last Christmas. My team. What would happen to them? I glanced toward their cubicles, but Marcus cleared his throat. Time was up. The elevator ride down felt like a descent into purgatory. 32 floors of shame, watching the numbers decrease along with my sense of worth. In the lobby, they took my badge, my parking pass, my company laptop. They let me keep the box. Standing on the sidewalk, holding that pathetic cardboard box while men in suits brushed past me, I felt invisible. The March wind whipped my hair across my face, and I realized I was crying only when I tasted salt. This wasn't just a job loss. It was a betrayal. Every late night, every missed birthday party, every sacrifice I'd made for Westwood Dynamics had meant nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from James. "I'm sorry. It wasn't my call." I deleted it without responding. Sorry didn't pay my mortgage. Sorry didn't explain why they'd chosen me, their top performer, to eliminate. Sorry didn't erase the humiliation of being marched out like a criminal. As I walked to my car, shoulders squared despite the weight crushing my chest. One thought crystallized through the shock and hurt. They'd made a mistake. They just didn't know it yet. The drive home was a blur. I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes, unable to face the empty house that suddenly felt like a monument to my failure. When I finally walked through the door, the silence was deafening. No emails to answer, no meetings to prepare for. Just me and the crushing weight of unemployment. That first call to my mother was the hardest. Fired? She couldn't hide the disappointment in her voice. But you worked so hard, Laura. What did you do wrong? Nothing, Mom. It was restructuring. People don't get fired for nothing. Maybe if you'd been more agreeable, less pushy. I hung up. The narrative was already forming, the one where this was somehow my fault. Too ambitious, too direct, too much. By day 3, the reality hit with brutal force. My mortgage payment was $3,200 a month. Car payment, $650. Student loans, $400. Health insurance without employer coverage would be $1,100. My savings could sustain me for maybe 4 months if I cut everything non-essential. The severance package, 2 weeks' pay, was an insult wrapped in legal documents I had to sign to get even that much. I updated my LinkedIn profile, crafting the euphemistic language of corporate displacement, seeking new opportunities after successful tenure at Westwood Dynamics. Within hours, the messages started. Not job offers, just variations of, "So sorry to hear," and "Everything happens for a reason." Empty platitudes from people who still had their paychecks. The job hunting was a special kind of hell. My first interview was with Preston Marketing Group. I wore my best suit, arrived 15 minutes early, and nailed every question. The hiring manager seemed impressed until she asked why I left Westwood. "Restructuring," I said, maintaining eye contact. Her expression shifted minutely. "I see. We'll be in touch." They never called. Word travels fast in Dallas's tech circle. By week 2, I knew something was wrong. Recruiters who'd previously courted me weren't returning calls. Positions I was overqualified for were suddenly filled internally. During one particularly brutal phone screening, the interviewer accidentally left me on hold while she spoke to someone else. "Yeah, she's the one Westwood let go. Morrison won't give her a reference. James Morrison, my mentor." The man who'd taken credit for my strategies for 3 years was now poisoning my reputation with silence. The nights were the worst. I'd lie awake replaying every interaction from my last months at Westwood, searching for signs I'd missed. The meeting where Robert Westwood had praised my innovation, but his smile hadn't reached his eyes. The project that got reassigned without explanation. The invitation to the leadership retreat that never came. 3 weeks in, I ran into a former colleague, Amy, at Whole Foods. I was buying generic brand coffee instead of my usual French roast. Small humiliations in every aisle. "Laura, how are you?" Her voice pitched high with false enthusiasm. "Great, taking some time to explore options." "That's wonderful." She was already backing away. "Listen, I have to run, but let's definitely catch up soon." We both knew we wouldn't. The rejection emails became a daily ritual of humiliation. "While your qualifications are impressive, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. The position has been put on hold." Each one chipped away at my confidence until I started questioning everything. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought. Maybe Westwood had seen something lacking in me that I couldn't see myself. Week 4 brought the overdue mortgage notice. The savings were draining faster than projected. I'd already canceled my gym membership, Netflix, the wine club I'd loved. I sold my designer handbags online for a fraction of what I'd paid. Pride became a luxury I couldn't afford. The lowest point came when I applied to be a marketing coordinator, a position 3 levels below my former role, paying half my previous salary. The interviewer, barely 25, looked at my resume with barely concealed skepticism. "You seem overqualified," she said. "I'd worry you'd leave as soon as something better came along." "I need this job," I said, abandoning all pretense of professional dignity. "I'll commit to whatever timeline you need." She smiled sympathetically, The way you smile at a homeless person you're not going to give money to. We'll let you know. That night, I sat on my kitchen floor with a glass of the last good wine I owned. Laptop open to my bank account showing $7,842.23. 4 weeks ago, I was strategizing multi-million-dollar campaigns. Now I was calculating whether I could afford to keep my health insurance. But in that moment of absolute despair, something shifted. The tears stopped. The self-pity crystallized into something harder, sharper. They hadn't just taken my job. They'd tried to destroy my future. James Morrison, Robert Westwood, Patricia Stern. They'd made their move. Now it was my turn. The email that changed everything came at 2:47 a.m. on a Thursday. I was awake, scrolling through job boards with the desperation of someone watching their life savings evaporate. When the notification popped up, it was from David Huang, a former Westwood colleague who'd left 2 years ago to join a consulting firm. Saw this and thought of you. Call me. Attached was a request for proposal from Meridian Energy Corporation, one of the largest energy companies in the nation. They were seeking a comprehensive marketing and strategic communications partner for their renewable energy division. Contract value, $60 million, over 3 years. My heart stopped. I knew this RFP. More importantly, I knew Westwood Dynamics would be bidding on it. 3 months before my termination, I'd been leading the preliminary research for this exact opportunity. I'd spent weeks analyzing Meridian's pain points, their CEO's vision, their board's priorities. All that intelligence was still in my head. I called David immediately, not caring about the hour. "Laura, thank God," he answered on the first ring. "Listen, I can't officially help you, but Meridian is accepting proposals from qualified firms. The submission deadline is in 4 months." "David, I don't have a firm. I don't even have a job." "Then maybe it's time you did. Have a firm. His voice carried a weight of meaning. "Westwood's proposal team is in chaos without you. James Morrison is leading it, and from what I hear, he's floundering." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my home office, the RFP glowing on my screen, $60 million. It was absurd. I had $7,000 to my name, no team, no office, no company. But I had something Westwood didn't expect, intimate knowledge of their playbook and the fury to use it. The next morning, I did 3 things. First, I called Sarah Kim, the brilliant strategist Westwood had passed over for promotion twice. Second, I reached out to Marcus Chen, not the security guard, but a data analyst they'd laid off 6 months before me. Another casualty of restructuring. Third, I walked into my bank and applied for a business loan using my house as collateral. Sarah answered immediately. "Laura, I heard what they did to you. Bastards. Want to help me destroy them?" There was a pause, then a laugh. "When do we start?" Marcus took more convincing. He had a family, a new job that paid less but was stable. But when I explained the opportunity, the chance to bid against Westwood for the Meridian contract, I heard his breath catch. "They told me I wasn't strategic enough," he said quietly. "Said I was just a numbers guy. Help me win this, and we'll show them exactly how strategic numbers can be." The bank loan was approved for $50,000, not much in the corporate world, but enough to register Nova Strategies LLC, rent a small office space in a building that had seen better days, and keep us running for 3 months. I maxed out my remaining credit cards for equipment. Sarah and Marcus agreed to work for equity stakes initially, with salaries to come if we landed any contracts. Our office was a far cry from Westwood's glass towers. Second floor of a building in East Dallas, squeezed between a tax attorney and a questionable massage parlor. The air conditioning worked sporadically. The carpet had stains of unknown origin. But it was ours. We had one advantage Westwood couldn't counter. I knew exactly how they'd approach the Meridian proposal. Their methodology hadn't changed in 5 years. James Morrison, for all his political maneuvering, was strategically lazy. He'd recycle my old frameworks, use the same consulting speak, the same glossy presentations that said nothing substantial. We're not going to outspend them, I told Sarah and Marcus as we sat around our single table, eating takeout on our first official day. We're going to outthink them. Marcus pulled up Meridian's 5-year financial reports. Look at this. Their renewable division is hemorrhaging money, but they keep investing. Why? Sarah leaned forward. Because the CEO's son is an environmental activist. I found his Twitter. He's been publicly pressuring his father about corporate responsibility. Personal angle, I said, the strategy crystallizing. Westwood will pitch ROI and market share. We pitch legacy and transformation, make it personal for the CEO. We worked 18-hour days. My living room became a second war room. We analyzed every public statement Meridian's board had made, every initiative they'd launched, every failure they'd tried to bury. Sarah discovered they'd had a PR disaster 2 years ago with a pipeline leak. Marcus found the settlement numbers. I knew how to position Nova Strategies as not just a marketing firm, but a reputation rehabilitation partner. 3 weeks into our preparation, I got a call from Patricia Stern. Laura, I heard you're starting your own firm. How ambitious. Her tone suggested she found it adorable, like a child playing dress-up. I hope you remember your non-compete agreement. My stomach dropped. The non-compete. In my termination haze, I'd forgotten about the clause preventing me from soliciting Westwood's clients for 1 year. Meridian isn't your client, Patricia. It's an open RFP. Still, it would be unfortunate if legal got involved. These things can be so expensive. After she hung up, I sat in our shabby office, watching Sarah and Marcus work, and felt the weight of what we were attempting. We weren't just David against Goliath. Goliath had lawyers. But then Marcus looked up from his screen. Hey, Laura, I just found something interesting. Westwood's last 3 proposals to Fortune 500 companies, they all use the same template, same structure, same promises, just different logos. Sarah grinned. So they're not just predictable, they're lazy. I looked at my team, 2 brilliant people Westwood had discarded, working in a dump of an office on a dream and rage. Then I looked at the Meridian RFP, all 127 pages of it. Then, let's show them what innovation actually looks like. The first month of Nova Strategies nearly broke us. Not Westwood, not the competition, just the brutal reality of starting from nothing. Our first potential client meeting was a disaster. I'd pitched to a local healthcare startup, wearing my last good suit and projecting confidence I didn't feel. The 20-something founder looked at our empty portfolio, our no-name company, and asked, "What exactly have you done?" "I've managed multi-million-dollar campaigns." "No. What has Nova Strategies done?" "Nothing. We'd done nothing." He thanked me for my time with the kind of pitying smile I was getting used to. Sarah found us our first break. Her cousin owned a small chain of Korean restaurants wanting to expand. The budget was $8,000, what Westwood would spend on a single client lunch. We took it. Marcus built them a customer analytics dashboard that identified their best expansion locations. Sarah crafted a social media strategy that increased their foot traffic by 40%. I negotiated a partnership with a local food blogger that got them featured in Dallas Morning News. $8,000, split 3 ways after expenses, left us with almost nothing. But we had a case study. The second client came from Marcus's network, a financial tech startup that needed positioning strategy. $12,000. We turned their incomprehensible blockchain concept into a simple story about financial freedom. They got funded within 2 months. We are working out of my apartment most days now to save on electricity at the office. Sarah's laptop died, and she coded our presentations on her phone until we could afford a replacement. Marcus started driving Uber at nights to support his family. I sold my car and bought a 15-year-old Honda Civic that smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams. But we were learning something crucial. Being small made us fast. While Westwood would take 3 weeks to schedule a strategy meeting, we could pivot in 3 hours. Our proposals weren't glossy, but they were specific, personal, researched down to the last detail. 2 months in, we landed our first real client, Brennan Manufacturing, A mid-sized company wanting to modernize their image. $40,000 contract. The CEO, Janet Brennan, had been burned by big agencies before. You know what Westwood charged us 5 years ago? She asked during our pitch. $300,000 for a rebrand that looked like clip art. You show me more insight in this meeting than they did in 6 months. We celebrated that night in our shabby office with champagne that cost $12. Sarah cried. Marcus called his wife to tell her he could stop driving Uber. I sat in the bathroom afterward and allowed myself exactly 5 minutes to feel something other than desperate determination. The Brennan campaign became our calling card. We positioned them as American craftsmanship for the digital age and created a documentary series about their workers that went viral on LinkedIn. Their B2B inquiries increased 200%. Janet Brennan became our unofficial evangelist, recommending us to 3 other manufacturers. By month 3, we had 6 clients and could finally pay ourselves modest salaries. We hired a part-time designer, Rebecca Torres, another Westwood casualty who'd been restructured the month after me. Our office still looked like a crime scene, but we'd bought real furniture and a coffee machine that occasionally worked. The work was exhausting, but pure. No bureaucracy, no politics, no taking credit for other people's ideas. Every win was ours, every failure, too. When we lost a pitch to a bigger agency, we learned from it. When a campaign underperformed, we fixed it ourselves. Usually at 2 a.m., fueled by gas station coffee and spite. I was reviewing Meridian's RFP for the 100th time one evening when Sarah burst in. Look at this. She'd found a speaking engagement where Meridian's CEO would be presenting a sustainable energy summit in Austin 2 weeks away. We can't afford tickets, I said. The event was $5,000 per person. We don't need tickets, Marcus said, looking up from his screen. The sessions are being live-streamed. But look here, there's a public mixer the night before at the Four Seasons. Cash bar, no admission fee. 2 weeks later, I stood in the Four Seasons Austin, wearing a dress I'd bought from a consignment shop, watching Meridian's CEO, Thomas Hartley, work the room. I had one shot at this. No business cards from Nova Strategies, we couldn't afford the good ones yet. And cheap ones would hurt more than help. Instead, I waited until he was momentarily alone at the bar and made my move. Mr. Hartley, I know you're hearing from every agency about the RFP, I said quickly, knowing I had maybe 30 seconds. But they're all going to tell you the same thing, how to make Meridian look good. I want to talk about how to make your son proud. He turned, his expression shifting from polite dismissal to sharp interest. Excuse me? Your son's environmental activism isn't a PR problem to manage. It's your biggest asset. Every energy company talks about sustainability. You could be the one that actually means it, starting with this campaign. And you are? Someone who knows that Westwood Dynamics is going to pitch you a 50-slide deck about market penetration when what you really need is a story about redemption. He studied me for a long moment. You have 90 seconds. I pitched Nova Strategies in the time it took him to order his whiskey. Not our credentials, we barely had any. But our vision for Meridian. How we'd position them, not as an energy company going green, but as a family legacy choosing the right side of history. Send me your proposal, he said finally, directly to me. He handed me his personal business card. And Ms. Mitchell. Laura Mitchell. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Westwood's former star. I heard about that. He raised his glass slightly. Corporate America's loss, perhaps my gain. Walking out of that hotel, holding his business card, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. We were still David to Westwood's Goliath. But David had just gotten his first stone. The sabotage started subtly, then escalated into corporate warfare. First, our website went down. Rebecca had just uploaded our portfolio when the hosting service called. Our account had been reported for suspicious activity and suspended pending review. It took 3 days and countless phone calls to restore it. The hosting company couldn't say who'd made the report. Then came the Whisper campaign. Sarah lost a potential client who suddenly heard concerns about Nova Strategy's stability. Marcus discovered someone had been calling our clients, posing as a credit agency, asking about their satisfaction with our services and whether they were worried about our financial situation. The breaking point came when we arrived at our office on a Monday morning to find an eviction notice. Our landlord, Mr. Petrov, stood in the hallway looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Laura. Someone bought the building over the weekend. New owner wants you out in 30 days. Someone bought an entire building to evict us?" Sarah's voice cracked with disbelief. Mr. Petrov shrugged. "Westwood Commercial Properties. They paid cash, 20% over asking." Westwood Commercial Properties. Robert Westwood's real estate subsidiary. They weren't even trying to hide it. That afternoon, I got a call from James Morrison. "Laura, this is getting silly," he said, his tone patronizing. "You had a good run, but let's be realistic. You can't compete with us. Walk away from the Meridian bid, and I'll personally ensure you get strong references for your job search." "Go to hell, James. I'm trying to help you. Robert is taking this personally. You know how he gets when he feels betrayed." "Betrayed?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "I gave Westwood 8 years of my life. And you were compensated for it. This vindictive little venture is beneath you." "What's beneath me is begging for a job from people who threw me away like garbage." There was a pause. "The eviction is just the beginning, Laura. We have lawyers. We have resources. You have what? 2 employees and a credit card debt?" After he hung up, I sat in our soon-to-be former office, watching my team work. Rebecca was designing presentations for the Meridian pitch. Sarah was crafting messaging strategies. Marcus was building predictive models for energy market trends. They believed in this impossible dream because I'd sold them on it. "We need to find a new office," I announced. "With what money?" Marcus asked quietly. We all knew our finances. The Meridian proposal alone was eating every spare dollar. Research, design, printing costs for a presentation that might go nowhere. That's when Janet Brennan called. "I heard you're having landlord troubles. I have an empty floor in my building. It's not fancy, but it's yours if you want it. Free for 3 months, then we'll figure out fair rent." "Janet, I can't. You saved my company's reputation. Consider us even. Besides." Her voice turned steely. "I despise bullies." We moved that weekend. Our new space was in an industrial area, all concrete and exposed pipes. But it was twice the size and nobody could evict us. Janet even threw in furniture from their old offices. The harassment continued. Our business insurance was suddenly canceled. The provider cited irregularities in our application. 3 speaking engagements I'd booked mysteriously withdrew their invitations. A journalist preparing to write about Dallas's innovative small agencies told Sarah off the record that his editor had killed the piece after a call from Westwood's PR team. But something strange happened. Every attack made us stronger, more focused. Rebecca worked through a pneumonia because she refused to slow down the Meridian designs. Marcus built financial models that would have taken Westwood's team of 20 analysts months to complete. Sarah crafted a narrative for Meridian that made their renewable pivot feel like destiny, not desperation. We submitted our proposal 2 weeks before the deadline. 147 pages of strategy, creativity, and controlled fury. Every page was perfect because it had to be. We couldn't afford Westwood's gilded presentations, but we could outthink them. The next day, Patricia Stern called. "I hear you actually submitted to Meridian," she said. "How optimistic. I thought you should know James's team has been working with Meridian's board members for months. Golf games, dinner parties. You know how these things really get decided." "Is that why you called, Patricia? To gloat preemptively?" "I called to offer you a lifeline. We'll buy Nova Strategies. $1.5 million. You can walk away with money instead of humiliation." $1.5 million. 6 months ago, it would have seemed like a fortune. Now it felt like 30 pieces of silver. "Not interested." "Laura, be practical. You're competing against a firm with 300 employees and 40 years of relationships. This isn't a movie where the plucky underdog wins. No, I agreed. It's real life, where companies that fire their best talent to protect incompetent leadership eventually face consequences. She sighed. The offer expires tomorrow. After that, we stopped playing nice. That night, I stood on the roof of our new building, looking at Dallas's skyline. Westwood's tower gleamed in the distance, a monument to corporate power. Below me, in our concrete box, my team was still working, preparing for our Meridian presentation the following week. David Huang texted me. Heard Westwood's putting full court press on you. You okay? I texted back. They're about to learn the difference between having resources and being resourceful. We'd been the ant they'd stepped on without thinking. Now we were the ant that refused to die. And they were starting to notice the sting. The Meridian presentations were scheduled for the second week of September. 5 firms had made the final cut. Westwood Dynamics, 2 other major agencies, a boutique firm from New York, and Nova Strategies. We were scheduled last Friday afternoon, the death slot when attention spans were shot and decisions were already half made. The Westwood team went Monday morning, 15 people, including James Morrison and 2 senior VPs I'd trained personally. They took over Meridian's largest conference room for 3 hours. I knew because David Huang was feeding me intelligence, nothing unethical, just public observations from someone who happened to work in the building. They brought a string quartet, he texted. Playing in the lobby during lunch, James is working the room like it's his high school reunion. Wednesday. I ran into Robert Westwood himself at a coffee shop near Meridian's headquarters. Not a coincidence, he wanted me to see him there, confident, relaxed, already celebrating. Laura, he nodded, his smile razor-thin. I hear you're presenting Friday. How ambitious. Robert, I replied, matching his tone. I hear you're personally overseeing this bid. How desperate. His smile faltered slightly. $60 million merits personal attention. Or maybe you're finally realizing what you lost when you fired me. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You were an employee. Replaceable. Forgettable. After Friday, you'll be a cautionary tale about what happens when people don't know their place. Thursday night, our final preparation. The 4 of us sat in our concrete office, reviewing every slide, every transition, every possible question. Our presentation was different from anything Meridian would see. No string quartets, no army of executives, just a radical reimagining of their entire market position. Marcus had discovered something crucial in the data. Meridian's renewable division wasn't just losing money, it was cannibalizing their traditional energy sales. Their customers were choosing competitors rather than transitioning to Meridian's green options. The other agencies would propose fixing the marketing. We were proposing something bigger. Make Meridian the first energy company to publicly sunset their fossil fuel operations over 10 years. It's insane, Sarah said for the 10th time. We're basically telling them to kill half their company. No, I corrected. We're telling them to be the hero of their own transformation story. First mover advantage in the inevitable energy transition. Thomas Hartley's son becomes their spokesperson. Every environmental group becomes their ally instead of their enemy. They go from being part of the problem to being the solution. Rebecca pulled up her final designs. Instead of corporate blue and gray, she'd used earth tones and sky gradients. Instead of stock photos of wind turbines, she'd created visuals of real families, real communities powered by Meridian's renewable future. If this doesn't work, Marcus started, then we go down swinging. I finished. Friday, 2 p.m. We walked into Meridian's building carrying our own equipment because we couldn't afford to ship it ahead. No string quartet, no entourage, just 4 people in our best clothes. Sarah's blazer had a safety pin holding the lining, hidden under her arm. The conference room was smaller than what Westwood had used. Several board members were openly checking phones. Thomas Hartley sat at the center, his expression neutral. To his left, his son Adam, who'd flown in from Berkeley where he was finishing his environmental science PhD. I opened with something no other agency would dare. Meridian Energy is dying. That got their attention. Phones went down. Your renewable division has lost $200 million in 3 years. Your traditional energy infrastructure needs $8 billion in upgrades you can't afford. Your stock is down 30% while competitors are up. Every environmental group in the country has you on their target list. Your own founder's son. I nodded to Adam. Has publicly called for your transformation. Thomas Hartley's face was stone. A board member started to object, but I kept going. Every agency before us has shown you how to polish this sinking ship. We're here to show you how to build a new one. Sarah took over, walking them through the consumer research we'd compiled on our shoestring budget. Real interviews with real customers, not focus groups. Marcus presented the financial modeling, how a public commitment to transition could unlock federal subsidies, ESG investments, and partnerships currently off the table. Then Rebecca unveiled the creative, the last first, she called it, Meridian as the last energy company to see the light, but the first to actually do something about it. A 10-year documented journey from fossil to future, with Adam Hartley as the conscience pushing his father's company forward. You're suggesting we abandon half our business model, a board member interrupted. No, I responded. I'm suggesting you claim the future before someone claims it from you. Kodak had the first digital camera. Blockbuster could have bought Netflix. Don't be another cautionary tale about industry leaders who refuse to lead. We showed them the campaign timeline. Year 1, the announcement that would shake the industry. Year 2, documenting the transition, turning corporate change into must-watch content. Year 3, the first communities fully powered by Meridian Renewable Energy. By year 10, Meridian as the case study every business school teaches about successful transformation. This is reputation suicide, another board member said. Adam Hartley spoke for the first time. No, continuing to pretend nothing needs to change is reputation suicide. This, he gestured at our presentation, is reputation resurrection. Thomas Hartley hadn't spoken since we started. Now he leaned forward. Who handles the crisis management when our stock crashes after the announcement? We do, I said. But it won't be crisis management. It'll be orchestrated chaos. We leak the rumors first, let the stock dip, then announce with such force that it rebounds higher. Classic market manipulation, except completely legal because it's true. Boy, you're asking us to bet $60 million and our company's future on a 3-person agency no one's heard of. 4 people, Rebecca corrected quietly. No, I said, meeting Thomas Hartley's eyes. I'm asking you to bet on the team that's telling you the truth instead of what you want to hear. Westwood sold you safety. We're selling you survival. The room was silent. We'd either just won everything or lost it all. Thomas Hartley stood. Thank you for your candor. We'll be in touch. Walking out, I couldn't read him. The board members avoided eye contact. Adam Hartley gave us a small nod, but that could mean anything. In the parking garage, we sat in Sarah's car. Mine had been repossessed that week, and said nothing. We'd pitched the impossible with conviction. Now we waited to see if anyone was brave enough to buy it. The call came at 7:43 a.m. on Tuesday, 4 days after our presentation. I was sleeping on Sarah's couch. I'd lost my house to foreclosure the previous week, the final humiliation in a year of losses. My phone rang with an unknown number. Ms. Mitchell, Thomas Hartley, are you available to come to our offices this morning? Bring your team. My heart stopped. Of course. What time? Now. We met in our concrete office, everyone in yesterday's clothes because we'd been too anxious to go home. Rebecca's hands shook as she applied lipstick in her phone's reflection. Marcus kept checking his financial models, as if the numbers might have changed overnight. Sarah gripped my hand in the car, neither of us speaking. The Meridian building felt different. The security guard smiled. The receptionist offered us real coffee, not the bitter waiting room kind. We were escorted not to a conference room, but to the executive boardroom on the 40th floor. The entire board was present. So was Adam Hartley. And in the corner, like vultures who'd arrived early to the feast, sat James Morrison and Robert Westwood. My stomach turned to ice. They'd won. This was their victory lap, making us watch while they signed the contract. Thomas Hartley stood. We've made our decision regarding the $60 million strategic partnership. James Morrison was already half standing, his hand extended for the handshake. Nova Strategies. Thomas Hartley continued. Congratulations. The room tilted. James's hand hung in the air, his face cycling through confusion, shock, then rage. Robert Westwood went completely still. The kind of stillness that precedes violence. This is a mistake, Robert said, his voice deadly quiet. They're a 4-person company with no track record, no resources. They're the only agency that told us the truth. Thomas Hartley interrupted. Every other proposal, including yours, Mr. Westwood, was about managing our decline. Ms. Mitchell's team presented transformation. Eros, you're betting $60 million on a fantasy. James sputtered. Adam Hartley spoke up. No, we're betting on the only team that understands the future isn't optional. Thomas Hartley turned to me. Ms. Mitchell, we'll need to discuss implementation immediately. Can your team start today? Yes. I managed, my voice steadier than my legs. This is actionable. Robert Westwood stood, his face flushed. We'll file an injunction, non-compete violations, tortious interference. Try it. Thomas Hartley's voice was steel. My legal team would love to discuss how you attempted to sabotage a competitor through real estate manipulation and systematic harassment. Ms. Mitchell kept excellent records, I assume. I nodded. Every threatening call, every suspicious incident, every act of corporate bullying, I'd documented it all. Robert turned to me, his mask finally off, showing the cruel man who'd thrown me away like trash. You think you've won? You're nobody. A bitter ex-employee who got lucky once. This contract will destroy you. You don't have the infrastructure, the talent, the capability. She has something you don't. Thomas Hartley cut him off. She has our contract. Security will escort you out. Watching Robert Westwood and James Morrison being led from the room by security, the same humiliation they'd orchestrated for me, should have felt like victory. But I was too stunned to feel anything except disbelief. After they left, Thomas Hartley's expression softened slightly. Adam showed me something last night. A campaign you created 3 years ago for renewable energy that Westwood shelved. Your ideas, Morrison's name on the credits. We called references, not the official ones, but employees who actually worked with you. Every single one said you were the real talent at Westwood. Plus, Adam added, any team that could survive what Westwood threw at you and still deliver that presentation has the resilience we need for what's coming. The contract signing was surreal. $60 million, $20 million per year for 3 years, with performance bonuses that could double it. Sarah was crying silently. Marcus kept cleaning his glasses obsessively. Rebecca just stared at the number, unblinking. There's one condition, Thomas Hartley said. We need you scaled up within 30 days. Full team, proper offices, infrastructure. Can you handle that? Yes, I said, with no idea how we'd manage it, but we'd figure it out. We'd figured out everything else, walking through Meridian's lobby, carrying the signed contract. We passed a group of Westwood employees who'd come to celebrate their assumed victory. They stared at us, 4 nobodies in wrinkled clothes, holding the prize their company had assumed was theirs. Outside, in the Texas heat, we stood on the sidewalk where 8 months ago I'd stood with a cardboard box of my possessions, discarded and humiliated. Now I held a contract worth more than Westwood had paid me in 8 years. Sarah found her voice first. We just destroyed them. Marcus finished. With their own playbook? No, I corrected, looking up at Westwood's tower gleaming in the distance. We didn't destroy them. We just showed them what they destroyed when they threw us away. My phone was already ringing. Reporters who'd gotten wind of the upset. Potential employees wanting to join Nova Strategies. Clients who suddenly found us interesting. But I let it ring. This moment, standing with my team, having bet everything and won, deserved to exist without interruption. Rebecca pulled out a bottle of champagne she'd been carrying in her bag for 4 days. Just in case. We opened it right there on the sidewalk. Professional composure completely abandoned and toasted with paper cups from the coffee cart. To Nova Strategies, Sarah said. To revenge served at exactly the right temperature, Marcus added. To the people stupid enough to throw away their best assets. Rebecca laughed. I raised my paper cup to Westwood's tower. To Robert Westwood and James Morrison, thank you for the motivation. 8 months ago, they'd broken me. Today, I'd returned the favor with interest. The Dallas Business Journal ran the headline 3 days later. David slays Goliath, unknown startup steals, $60 million contract from industry giant. By then, I'd already hired 12 former Westwood employees who'd been restructured over the past 2 years. They came running, bringing their talent and their own hunger for vindication. The industry watched in shock as we scaled Nova Strategies from 4 people to 40 in 3 weeks. Janet Brennan introduced me to investors who'd been burned by big agencies. Our little concrete office became command central for something bigger than revenge. It became proof that merit could still triumph over machinery. James Morrison was fired within a month. The board at Westwood couldn't ignore losing their biggest potential contract to a startup founded by someone they'd discarded. He called me once, drunk, at 2 a.m., alternating between threats and begging for a job. I didn't answer. The silence said everything. Robert Westwood held on longer, but the damage was spreading. 3 more major clients switched to Nova Strategies after seeing our Meridian work. His 40-year-old empire, built on relationships and reputation, crumbled as people realized the emperor had no clothes, just expensive suits and old connections. 6 months into the Meridian contract, we were ahead of every metric. The campaign Adam and I launched together became Harvard Business School's case study on transformative corporate courage. Thomas Hartley's gamble paid off. Meridian's stock hit record highs after the initial dip, and they became the face of responsible energy transition. But the sweetest moment came exactly 1 year after my firing. I was invited to speak at the Dallas Economic Summit about entrepreneurship and resilience. The organizers sat me at the head table, directly across from Robert Westwood, who was receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, the kind they give you when your actual achievements are behind you. He had to sit there, in front of 500 of Dallas's business elite, while I gave my keynote about how getting fired from Westwood Dynamics was the catalyst that created Nova Strategies, how sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened, how companies that value politics over performance inevitably face market justice. I never mentioned him by name. I didn't have to. Everyone knew. After my speech, the standing ovation lasted 2 minutes. Robert Westwood didn't stand. He sat there, aging in real time, watching his former employee receive the recognition he'd assumed was his birthright. Later, in the bathroom, Patricia Stern cornered me. She looked exhausted, smaller somehow. "We underestimated you," she said quietly. "No," I corrected. "You undervalued me. There's a difference." "I'm leaving Westwood," she admitted. "It's toxic now. Everything's falling apart. Would Nova consider—" "We're not hiring from Westwood," I cut her off. "We only hire people who've been fired by Westwood. Company policy." The truth about revenge is that it doesn't taste as sweet as you imagine. Looking at Patricia's defeated face, at Robert Westwood's empty honor, at James Morrison's LinkedIn posts desperately seeking new opportunities, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not joy, just emptiness where the anger used to live. But building Nova Strategies, watching Sarah become Chief Strategy Officer of a company worth $40 million, seeing Marcus send his kids to college debt-free, having Rebecca's designs win international awards, giving jobs to 70 people Westwood had discarded, That tasted better than revenge. That tasted like justice. Standing in our new offices, we'd bought the entire building, including the floor Westwood had tried to evict us from. I looked out at Dallas spreading beneath us. Westwood's tower was still there, but it no longer gleamed quite as bright. They'd lost 3 more floors of tenants. Rumors said they were considering selling. My phone buzzed. Another text from a recruiter, this time offering me CEO positions at established firms. I deleted it without reading. Nova Strategies wasn't about proving them wrong anymore. It was about proving us right. Sarah knocked on my door. The Times wants to do a feature. The woman who brought down Westwood. Tell them no, I said. This isn't about bringing anyone down. It's about building something up. But I knew the truth. Every success story needs a villain. And Westwood had volunteered for the role when they'd handed me that cardboard box and marched me out like a criminal. They'd thought they were ending my story. They'd actually just written the first chapter. The irony is perfect. They fired me to save money. And it cost them everything. They threw me away to protect their power, and I used their trash to build an empire. They believed I was nobody. And I became the somebody who made them nobody. You want to know the difference between corporations and people? Corporations think they're too big to fail. People know they're too small to quit. And that's how a fired employee with a cardboard box and burning humiliation took down a 40-year-old company and stole their $60 million future. They gave me nothing but motivation. I gave them nothing but consequences. We're even now. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story of triumph over corporate injustice resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your own thoughts or experiences. Sometimes the best revenge really is massive success.